Hello, everyone, and welcome to the training on information and assistance. This is Julie Bergeson, and I have with me Linda Hildreth and Shan Sasser, and we will be doing your presentation today. This training and all others will be recorded and placed on the IDA website for future reference and any opportunities for AAAs to help train new staff and just for future reference. We will begin with the optimization of Older Americans Act services. The goal of this training is to understand the information and assistance definition and how to implement it for statewide consistency. Information and assistance is a service that is person-centered to meet the needs of the consumer at this point in time. It should support and empower client choice, and it is a timely service that identifies the needs of the consumers and links them to the most appropriate services for their needs. The goal of INA is an accurate, we need accurate information to tell the story of our consumers, both legislatively and to any future potential funding sources. And so we strive for the highest data integrity to help tell that story.
The slide that's before you is an updated version of the Disability Resource Center Navigation Coordination Center system. This is updated from the state fiscal year 19 reporting manual. And as you will notice, on the left-hand side, it talks about the system access, how to access the ADRC system, like one right. Also talks about the different consumers groups that we serve. Today's presentation is going to focus on the next set of blocks that talks about the navigation of supports and services. What this flowchart does is it helps provide and visually demonstrates the results of the system continuous improvement that we at IDA and employers have undertaken to deliver quality and consistent services statewide. It has become more simplified and with the goal of meeting the consumer where they are at and then progresses from there. Today we are focusing, like I said, on that second set of boxes, which talks about the navigation of supports and services. So the optimization of Older Americans Act services, Julie talked about that at the beginning as well. This slide helps provide a high-level view of the steps that have been taken to optimize the Older Americans Act services, which began the summer of 2018. At that point, in the summer, the Department on Aging contracted with a consultant called Sellers Corsi to provide their expertise, their insight, and recommendations on areas in need of system improvement. The purpose is to expand the optimal core services and target populations for the AAA's ADRCs to effectively meet the needs of individuals served and ensure that consistent service delivery is provided statewide. And the next block over with the Department on Aging, it's a critical step to delivering services statewide is to provide training that can be provided consistently and is helps define what the services are, how they are to be implemented, and what we're looking at for data. So that's one of the reasons why Director Miller, Linda Miller for the Iowa Department of Aging, has sent out an email to all of the AAA directors stating that these trainings are mandated, required, so that we can be all clear on the definitions and the implementation of the service. And as Julie said earlier too, these will be placed on the IDA website. It will be a good place to go with a refresher for if later on down the line as you're implementing these services, if you have some questions, it'll be easily accessible to go on our website, click on the applicable training that you have a question on, and state your clarification. Also, to help with sustainability and the theme of consistency, it also will be used at the AAA level for orientations of new employees that are working with these. And of course, the Department on Aging staff are always available for technical assistance. So if you ever have questions on the services and you've watched this and it still have something that's just kind of not very clear, you need some assistance with that, just contact the Department on Aging and we will help you out. At the end of this presentation, Julie's name and email is provided. So you might want to grab a pen and pencil to have that readily available in case you do have questions. The last section talks about quarterly conversations. This is another improvement that has been added to our system in order to help provide more clear guidance and accessibility of conversations between the department and each AAA. These meetings are at the Department on Aging, and it's for the Director Miller will be meeting with the Area Agency on Aging Director, and then the applicable staff from IAD, from the Department of Aging, and from the AAAs will also be a part of that group. It will include reviewing data, talking about area plans, goals, and processes. AAAs can highlight the best practices that they're having, and then we can address any concerns that or clarifications that either party needs, whether it's the department or the AAA. All of the Older Americans Act services delivered by the AAAs have been organized into these three broad categories: information and service assistance, nutrition and health promotion, and services to promote independence. These broad categories help us get our arms around the different services and get our arms around them, and also helps provide us all, as in at the department and in the AAAs, gives us a basis to go from when we're explaining to people what is the Aging Network and what does it do and how can we help. It just brings it a little bit more concise. No services have been deleted, and some services have had small name changes. This slide is a visual of the three broad categories that we just talked about and what services are included. As you can see underneath the different headings, like information, service assistance, those are mandatory categories, and then across the board. Nutrition, health promotion is mandatory, and services to promote independence is optional. Now, with the first two categories that are mandatory, if you look underneath, it'll, like for case management, now you have family caregiver case management, older relative caregivers is case management. Where those are optional, older relative caregiver case services are all optional. And we tried to indicate that on those different services to help provide a little bit more clarification. Again, I was talking about there was a couple of small name changes. It's more like the abbreviations. FC for family caregiver and ORC is for older relative caregiver. Again, while these services have been reorganized under different headings, they will still be recorded the same in WELL side. That has not. This one slide provides us all in the Aging Network with consistent and a simple message of what we do.
This grid provides a snapshot of funding sources, current budget code, Title III-B funding priority status, registered service status, and direct service status waiver status for each service in the taxonomy. The IMA services that are highlighted are funded through a combination of state and federal funding and local funding. This grid shows only the state and federal tax and funding sources. Each service also has local funds assigned, which are not represented in this grid. Note that Title III-E is the funding federal funding source for caregiver information and assistance. EAPA consultation has a special state line item funding source for EAPA activities. For INA for non-caregiver caregivers is funded by state LOA services dollars, a special line item appropriation for ADR3 activities, lifelong links, and federal Title IIIB funds. Each AAA may determine the total amount of funding for the INA service and the amount from each funding source that encompasses that total. In order to ensure alignment with the fiscal component or fiscal staff, the budget line item number and IFRS code is included in this grid. Information and assistance is a Title IIIB priority service. The Commission on Aging sets the minimum percentage of funds to be expended for identified priority services. Refer to the service expenditure requirements information in Chapter 2 of the reporting manual for more information about Title IIIB priority service. 10% of all party funds must be expended for access service, which includes information and assistance. All information and assistance services are registered services. However, only a limited amount of information is required to meet the registered service requirement for these services. Details on the required information is provided later in this presentation. You may also refer to the required customer and service information for registered services in Chapter 3 of the report. Area Agency on Aging staff may provide all information and services directly without requesting a direct service. Refer to Chapter 2 of the reporting manual for more information on direct services and the need for providing the service directly. The Older Americans Act is the federal law authorizing the service delivery offered by the Area Agency on Aging. The Iowa Code references this on the slide, allows the state authorizing authority to oversee the service delivery of the Older American Act services. The Older American Act mandates that each state has a state unit on aging. Iowa Department on Aging is the state unit on aging. Each state unit on aging must operate under an approved state plan on aging. The Act also mandates that the AAA must operate under an approved area plan on aging. The IDA, Iowa Department on Aging, has oversight of area plan development and implementation process. The Iowa Commission on Aging approves area plans. The area plan identifies the services the agency will provide, annual projected consumer units and expenditures for those services, identifies prioritized service gaps plans and planned activities to address them in the plan period, as well as other information. Please refer to the reporting manual for definitions and requirements related to area plan and service delivery.
And now we will transition to more specifics on information and assistance, its definition, examples of what it is not. And we will start with the service definition that is listed in the reporting manual. And this is taken straight from the Older Americans Act. And it defines INA as a service that provides the individual with current information on opportunities and services available within the communities, including information related to assistive technology. It assesses or identifies the problems and capabilities of the individual, and it links them to those opportunities and services that are available. To the maximum extent practicable, it ensures that the individual receives those services needed, and this is done by establishing follow-up procedures. The Older Americans Act also outlines priority categories of individuals, and those include older individuals with the greatest social and economic need or at risk for institutional placement. If we kind of go back a little bit, the definition of an individual that we serve are individuals age 60 plus, those 18 to 59 with a disability, veterans, caregivers, or anyone calling on their behalf. This is a definition for caregiver information and assistance and older relative caregiver information and assistance. The definition is really identical, except for it includes in those priority areas family caregivers who provide care with individuals with Alzheimer's disease and related dementias. Underneath that is the EAPA consultation definition, which is a service to a consumer or non-consumer who is calling on their own behalf or on behalf of the consumer who is either at risk of or experiencing abuse, neglect, or financial exploitation. Identifying what is important to the person and for the person with the consideration of dignity of risk that may occur in person, by phone, electronically, and results in the understanding of the consumer's situation and capabilities, again, linking that consumer to available resources and services, and again, establishing follow-up procedures. These are just, again, some examples of what information is and is not. INA is a professional service that is the first impression, the first face of your agency and really the entire aging network. It supports and empowers client choice through advocacy. It is a person-centered interview that identifies and meets the needs of the consumer. And again, it links through that interview, links those individuals to the most appropriate services at this point in time. They may have needs further down the line, but this is what we can address right here and now. As always, follow up when appropriate, perhaps when that consumer has a high level of need, appears confused, or you feel like they are overwhelmed with the phone call, perhaps a follow-up is best practice. Information and assistance is also not a hot potato, if you will. It should again, that information and assistance specialist should listen to that consumer's concern. It is not list requested not on behalf of a consumer. Perhaps that is an MCO or home care agency that wants your list of congruent meal sites or assisted living facilities in a county. That is not INA. INA is not, if consumers are calling your agency to RSVP for AAA events, trainings, congregate meal reservations. One way to kind of look at it is not every time the telephone rings is necessarily an INA unit. The above activities could be logged as information provided if they do not meet that definition of information and assistance. The Alliance of Information and Referral System, or AIRS, has a definition of INA that is the art and science and practice of bringing people and services together. Again, individuals are contacting your agency for a reason. They just may or may not be always able to clearly state that situation because it's stressful and serious and they're not able to articulate it. So it really is a practice of finding what those individuals need and using all those skills that you all possess. This slide outlines the INA process, and certainly we could probably spend a day and a half just on this slide, but it has good materials on the process and some things to always consider when working through the INA process. And in a perfect world, individuals move right down this list in a nice orderly fashion, but we know that this doesn't always happen. There might be back and forth, and it may not go as smoothly as this, but these are some good examples. INA should always begin with a welcome and rapport to build trust through active listening. Individuals are contacting you because they are confused or vulnerable. They're calling for a reason. And so it's really important to demonstrate empathy and respect for that client situation. Identifying needs. Sometimes consumers will call and have a clear idea of what they need, and that's great, but probably the majority of the time that is not as clear. And so it's important to understand the nature and extent of the situation. Usually that's done by using probing or open-ended questions to see what's lying underneath. So that's when you can, I would encourage you to ask them, tell me more about that, or is there anything else? Individuals might present with a long list of concerns, and it's important to help them prioritize that list for this point in time. One good method might be, it sounds like you have many concerns. What would be the biggest help? I would encourage you to go for the quick win and then prioritize those needs. Clarification is the next bullet point there, to ensure accurate understanding of the client's situation. That demonstrates to the client that they have been heard and understood by simply stating, did I capture this correctly? Information giving is providing that consumer the name, the location, the phone number of their direct request. Maybe that's a local food pantry. Referral and assistance giving kind of goes beyond that, the information giving from above. This could be help with applications, education about programs, program enrollment, or individual advocacy. In closing, it is important to verify the client's understanding of your conversation and next steps. Follow up if necessary. Again, if that client seemed overwhelmed or confused or in a crisis over their situation, and it's good practice to always ask for permission. Would it be okay if I called you again next week to see what was helpful?
This slide shows a snapshot of results related to the services of information assistance and caregiver and older relative caregiver. On the slide that is 17,805 individuals received the service today. 24,164 units or contacts were made with the consumers. That The agent network spent $1,555,195 on service consumer assistance. That equals to $64 of expenditure per unit or per contract, and that is roughly $87 per consumer service. 2,427 consumers used caregiver access assistance. There were 4,683 units or contacts for those consumers, equals to about 2 contacts per consumer. Over $500,000 was spent by the network for caregiver access assistance. That comes to $128 per unit or contact and $246 per consumer. This next slide, I'll talk a little bit about how the information that you collect related to the financial services is used. Area plan service data, including all information that you collect and utilize in various ways. Notably, it is used to report performance data to the Department of Management and to our annual performance report, the legislative agency, the governor's office, and the federal administration of community revenue. This slide shows the performance measures, targets, and actions that are included in the department's performance plan related to income. IDA, or department, sets targets that are based upon targets that each area agency include in this area plan, and the actions determined from area agency actions. Information that you record into the website system is collected by the department and then tabulated and included in the entity discussed. Not only do we collect and report data, we are required to submit the information, but also be responsible as a network to meet a fundamental requirement of the American Health, and that is to determine needs, provide services to meet that need, and evaluate our effectiveness at meeting the need. Collecting, validating, and reviewing and analyzing service data plays an important role in determining whether services are reaching those identified as served, unserved, or in the target population. The Older American Act identifies the target population as those in greatest economic need, those in greatest social need, those at risk of placement and frail. You can refer to the reporting manual for definitions of what is meant by greatest economic need, greatest social need, at risk of placement. Because of data collection, planning, and evaluation requirements, IDA expects the completeness and quality of services collected by regulators, including that information disclosed by you. IDA's performance goal for data quality is that AAA staff will collect required INA information for 2% of the consumers who receive INA. In state fiscal year 2018, approximately half of the INA consumers we determined had reported.
We will conclude with frequently asked questions that have been received and that we would like to address. One is, what activities occurred during INA? As previously listed, identifying consumer needs, linking to appropriate services. This is the opportunity to explain levels of assistance or service through AAA programs and follow up when necessary. All activities should support and empower client choice. If lists of agencies or facilities provided to others on behalf of the individual are allowed. Who do we collect the information about The caller or the person being cared for or called about is the caller. Demographic information is not required for professionals such as social workers, MCO agencies, and will not be counted against missing data for INA. Can INA be done only on the telephone? Information and assistance could be provided via the telephone. A consumer might walk in via email or home visit. There may be instances when the AAA staff meet with a consumer believing or with the intentions that this visit will lead to options counseling, but during that conversation with the consumer and no assessment is completed, perhaps the consumer changed their mind or declined, or really no more information was provided, this should be coded as INA. At what point does INA become options counseling or EAPA consultation become EAPA assessment intervention? So where does that baton get passed? Both options counseling and EAPA assessment intervention begin when a face-to-face visit occurs and the appropriate assessment is conducted. When is a call caregiver access assistance? Caregiver access assistance is provided when the person calling is an informal provider of in-home or community care. Through thoroughly identifying that caller's needs, and AAA staff have determined the caller provides an established caregiving activity, this could be recorded as caregiver access assistance. Relationship alone does not always indicate caregiver access assistance. It's the activities of caregiving that make that caregiver access assistance. How do you enter someone's age if WellSky requires a date of birth? If you are presented with someone's age but not a specific date of birth that includes month, date, year, you may use a pseudo date of birth that indicates that age and contact your system administrator for more details. If you do not need information on the person they are calling about, well, the consumer, then how do you know what to tell them about services that person may be eligible for? The first piece of that is for when we are talking about information and assistance, the consumer is the caller and person on the phone. That caller will disclose what kind of information they are seeking on that individual. Again, through that guided interview process, that information will be disclosed. If INA can be done in a home visit and the intent was to provide OC, but that changes, does that still counts as only one unit? Yes. Information provided is a part of INA, but those units didn't get included in INA reporting for IFRS. That is correct. And those units would not have enough information as name, date of birth to meet that goal and that 90% intake information goal. That is correct. Anonymous calls may qualify as INA if it meets the service definition. If a call is information provided in WellSky, and this is not a part of Older Americans Act reporting, how would you suggest we pay for staff time when taking these calls? If the activity is allocable to a service delivery, then time may be allocated to that category. If not, this should be categorized as general administrative costs. We have consumers who want to do options counseling by phone, as they might not want us in their home. Can we still do options counseling if it is by phone and all forms are completed, or is it INA? If no face-to-face visit is conducted, it should be counted as INA. Best practice, again, if consumers are hesitant to have AAA staff in their home, they should be encouraged to meet in an alternative location, public library, coffee shop, or agreed upon location. Thank you for watching this video, and please, this is my contact information. Feel free to reach out and pose any additional questions.